These are the hacks that you'll actually want to use in survival. If you're playing on a hardcore single-player world, this could be one of the most useful tips in the video. See, when you're in a difficult situation and about to die, then instead of just pressing the escape key to pause the game, press F3 and then the escape key. That'll still pause your single-player world, but the menu won't appear. And now you have full vision to be able to analyze your situation. Is this cheating? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. After all, it is a single-player world, so it's literally never gonna have anything to do with me. Never take the first horse that you tame, because while it does take a while to finally get a horse tamed and actually start using it, if that horse ends up being the slowest of the bunch, then you're gonna be wasting that time anyways. So it's worth testing out any and all horses around you and taming them to see which of them has the best stats. That way you can make sure they're not settling for some subpar steed. If you're planning on naming your tools, do not do it after applying any enchanted books. Since it's laid out in this example, every time that you go to name your tool after you've taken it up a couple levels, it's gonna get much more expensive to do. And that'll in turn bring up the entire enchantment cost of the whole tool, which is something we want to avoid entirely. So come up with a name before you do the step 1, otherwise you're just wasting experience. Deserts might actually be the best place to find diamonds now, thanks to their surprisingly common diamond fossils. Now, you've probably seen these fossils spawn all over your world, but have you ever considered looking inside? Because the chances are these fossils could be hiding away diamonds. And if you get lucky enough to find a giant desert inside of your world, then that could mean that you never have to look for diamonds again. Just in this one biome, it's home to hundreds of diamonds fossils that you can easily find when mining below Y level 0. But keep that number in mind, because any above Y level 0 will just be coal. If you're looking to get even with another player on the server, you might need to get creative. Because as any PvP player will tell you, all it takes is a bit of armor in the equation and suddenly your sword and axe is doing a lot less damage to the person. So to circumvent that entirely, how about we spend a bit more time and work on the potion side? Instant harming potions aren't just good for witches. These things can actually damage through armor, which means that a direct hit from a splash potion of harming 2 can basically melt through your opponent's health bar even if they got on netherite. Who knows, you might not even need a sword. Here's how to make your boat self-driving. All you gotta do is create a 3x3 area of water, and then place down a fence gate on this third block here. At which point we can break these blocks and cause the water to flow, and we'll have given ourselves an automatic way to drive our boats. Skeleton spawners are a valuable asset to have on hand, but we're now able to upgrade this good thing into something even better. Now, by adding in powdered snow, we're able to turn our skeleton farm into a stray spawner. Now, you might ask why we would do this, but it only takes one look at the loot table comparison to see just how much these slow skeletons can drop. And that's all upsides, folks, especially when all it takes to make the change is just some powdered snow and cobwebs. And at that point, it's a no-brainer. Here's an X-ray hack that Minecraft's never gonna patch. Since when you click the F3 button of the keyboard when you're playing Java Edition, the debug menu gives you a lot of information. And usually we're just looking at coordinates and FPS, but if you look right here, you can see this section where it tells you the targeted block. And the secret about this feature is that it works through lava, which allows us to detect any diamonds that are hiding underneath, which is good, because you don't want to go searching under lava if you don't have to. You see, when you waterlog something, it keeps the properties of a water source block, meaning that just by pouring a water bucket on your chest, that sucker isn't going to explode anytime soon. I see that as a small price to pay for indestructible chests. This is a lot easier to clean up. Instead of crafting a new bow every time that you need a dispenser, it's worth mentioning that in recent updates, you're actually able to craft them with bows that have as little as 1 durability point left. And that way you can save resources and recycle those old bows that you're getting from skeletons. Put the string to better use, like a fishing rod. Since just one of these, we can easily kill ghasts. If you're using a mending bow, then you've got to use spectral arrows. Now, they sound costly, but with the help of bartering, they're actually pretty easy to get in large quantities. And by using these, we're able to help keep track of the slippery mobs that might get away. Like say you're down in the ancient cities and you're trying to look for a warden. Well, if you use one of these to hit a warden, then you'll be able to track it down even when the darkness debuff is active. Which is good, because the warden's definitely not a mob that you want to turn your back on. If you're still playing on a server that hasn't updated to 1.17, consider yourself lucky. Since as it turns out, clay blocks on the surface can actually tell you where diamonds are. See, by going to a simple swamp biome, then underneath the middle of a clay patch, you could dig 3 blocks across and then straight down, and you would always come across diamonds. It looks like X-raying to anyone else, but there's actually no cheats here. It's just a glitch. So even if Mojang didn't add fireflies to our swamps, at least they added easy diamonds. How do you craft your diamond tools? I know that sounds like a silly question. Obviously, you just craft them based off the recipe, but how you lay out that recipe could change. And taking a page out of Mysticat's book, what we could do is put all of our materials into the crafting recipe in just one step. So then, first we craft the pickaxe, then the hoe, and finally the shovel. And you can do the same for armor too. And when you're in a dire situation like a PvP tournament, this little bit of a time save could be great for you, especially when your opponent's also trying to get kitted up themselves. This way we can equip first and be able to deal with them that way. Let's say you need to move your pet dog, but you don't want to risk it dying while you're running across the treacherous landscape. Well, no worries, Razeworks has you covered. Since by attaching your pet to a lead and that lead to a fence post, we can use a piston like this so that when the item despawns, then your pet will suddenly teleport that long distance just like that. And through the help of a chunk loader like this one, we can make sure that this design never unloads. That way with whatever timer you build, it's gonna work just fine. And most importantly, it means your feline friend can travel thousands of blocks, all without having to move a muscle. Can't say I'm not a little bit jealous. You can't see it, but there's a hidden ladder here, and it's not one that we made with sticks, but rather with the way that vines and maps overlap, we can mix together an item frame and a map to make our vines completely invisible and the map climbable, which could make it easier to do something like building out your large map on a wall, or better yet, for a hidden entrance. And you don't even have to go that far. You want a reason to do this? Now none of your friends can rotate that map art to make it look bad, since the vine's hitbox is slightly larger than the item frames. And when you got destructive friends like me, that's worth the price of a mission on its own right. Minecraft worlds aren't as random as you think, since in version 1.17 of the game, you could almost guarantee that you'd find yourself diamonds if you found yourself a block of lapis lazuli. As Reddit user LeoSpeedLeo noticed, if you were to dig 4 blocks to the side and then 4 blocks down from every lapis lazuli ore, it would always lead to a diamond ore in its place. And now we don't know if this is a bug or Mojang accidentally slipped up by showing us how the worlds get made, but either way, if you're playing in older versions, it's definitely worth using. I honestly wish it was still in the new versions of the game. It'd give another use for lapis, just not the one that Mojang intended. When we talk about Minecraft traps, cake probably isn't top of your list, but here's why it should be. Since silly as it may seem, if you trap your friend in a case of cake like this, and then replace the floor underneath them with a piece of soul sand, then when we add in a water source block, we'll have trapped them inside of a bubble stream. And just that little bit of bouncing around is gonna make it very tough to break the cake. And at that point, their best way out is if they're hungry, which I've never seen anyone eat a full cake in Minecraft, so they might be there for a while. Did you know that ladders can be useful in PvP? Yeah, it sounds ridiculous, but there's one very specific feature about ladders that makes them indispensable in certain situations. Take a look at this. If you place down a 3-block tall wall, and then place ladders on top of it, then you can place blocks off of the ladder behind you without even looking away from it. And if you're playing something like Bed Wars where you're walking on very thin bridges, that little bit of a roadblock could be all it takes to knock your biggest enemy into the void. So while speed bridging and towering might look cooler, it might not be a bad idea to also buy a few of these ladders. It only has to save you once to be worth it. The Warden isn't the only thing waiting for you in the deep dark, since there's also a risky but rewarding way to find your diamonds down below. Since using a hoe, you can instantly break the skulk blocks, so then you can then expose the deep slate underneath. And because of how low in the world the deep dark biome generates, it's prime breeding ground for all the diamonds that you can find. And as an added bonus, you're gonna get a whole bunch of experience points from mining the skulk, so you can even enchant those diamonds as soon as you find them. If your copper looks like this, I can tell you why it's not oxidizing. Since the way that it's coded, copper blocks need at least 4 blocks between them to oxidize at max speed. And if you have the blocks placed any closer together, it's gonna take much longer, especially if they're touching. So instead, a pattern like this is gonna be the quickest way to do it, helping you to build that Statue of Liberty replica and still get it finished within your own lifetime. Even with the new glow lichen on the walls, lighting up these caves is still a mega task. So why don't we try night vision potions instead? Though that's got its own issue. Potions don't stack, so they're gonna take a lot of room. So instead of sacrificing storage for bottles, why don't we just use night vision arrows instead? After you craft a chunk of these, you can simply hit yourself with a dose and get right back to exploring. Sure, it's a bit more painful, but that's a small price to pay for seeing in the dark. And a stack will give you plenty of time to do that. If you need to get a lot of sand and you're not allowed to use a sand duper, then we should take a page out of Etho's book. Since by just running in a line with TNT and a flint steel like this, you should know that for every TNT block that we're setting off, we're getting nearly 2 stacks of sand per. And folks, it only takes 4 sand to craft the same TNT. And sure, we're spending sand to get sand, but with returns like this, any investment broker would tell you to make it. And the only thing you gotta look out for here is placing down too much TNT to where all the sand that's dropping actually starts to despawn if you forget about it. But as long as you remember to take breaks to go pick some of that up, you're gonna get a lot of returns this method. You know that diamond blocks naturally generate in your Minecraft world? They're just super rare. But in the Woodland Mansion, which is already one of the rare structures in the game, the reward you get for exploring all the rooms is that inside of the obsidian room, you have a chance of finding a full diamond block inside of the obsidian. And the same goes for the lava room that you can find in mansions as well. Break through the glass and block off the lava, and there may be another diamond block. Maybe with just these two, we already have 18 new diamonds to our name. Auto clickers are great for AFK, but they're also not vanilla. But that's fine, we actually have a way to get an auto clicker inside of the regular Java game. See, if you press F3 and T at the same time that you're holding down your left mouse button, then after the textures reload, the game will still think that it's registering registering the input, even though my hands are completely off the keyboard. But as far as Minecraft knows, I'm still there mining away all of the cobblestone at my stone farm. So if you're just starting out in something like a skyblock world, this could be a way to get some early game resources. And then you can come back to your computer and actually play the fun parts. When you get a pet in Minecraft, the first act of business is giving it a name. But if you aren't a treasure hunter or a master with a fishing pole, the name tags are hard to come by. And while that should put us out of luck, there might be one last solution. See, if we were to take your new axolotl pal, place it in a bucket, and then rename that item in the anvil, then once we place it down, it actually retains the name. And if only we could do this for dogs too, then we'd be really set. If you're gonna make a big build, you're gonna want to get a lot of wool. Because while a lot of builders might skip this step, it could be remarkably useful to have a color-coded layout of the pattern that you're about to build off of. And that way you can easily account for where a build will be placed and how it's spaced from other builds, without having to invest all the materials to find out. Because trust me, the only thing that sucks more than finding out you build these houses too close to each other is the realization that now you're gonna have to tear it down and rebuild it all again to start from scratch. So save you and your tools the hassle and just do it out of wool next time. The most classic way to find diamonds is actually one of the most effective: branch mining. Well, if you got some time on your hands, then all you have to do is dig simple hallways 2 to 3 blocks tall and 4 to 5 blocks apart. And doing this between the levels y equals -53 to -59, you can find this to be a simple and pretty safe way to get yourself your stuff. And if you were lucky enough to get Swift Sneak from the ancient city before, then add that to your leggings and then make an even smaller tunnel for you to crawl through, because then every block that you mine exposes 5 new ones for you to see. If you don't have arrows, don't worry about crafting them, since while the materials look cheap, they're actually pretty tough to get. So instead, save that flint and turn it into a fletching table to get yourself all of the arrows you need through a villager. By just trading with a fletcher, you can get a stack of arrows for only 5 emeralds. And now you don't have to worry about killing off the entire chicken population just to get yourself a couple of these arrows. As soon as 1.16 kicked off, then the search for netherite was on. And since you need multiple ancient debris to actually make a netherite ingot to upgrade your tools, then you're gonna need a lot of the stuff. If you're not looking to spend the next hours of your life mining through netherrack, instead you might find better rewards by using explosives in the nether to find it. Whether it's by using bed explosions or TNT duplication, high-powered explosives is absolutely the best way to clear out the nether for your ancient debris. So while the rest of your friends are just mining for their supply, you'll be decked out to the nines, because unlike them, you used your full arsenal and then some. If you're getting nervous before you fight the Ender Dragon, don't worry, as the Stronghold itself has chests that are full of diamonds, all of which we could use to make last-minute upgrades to our gear. Now inside of this, there's a special chest inside of the Stronghold called the Altar Chest, which these have a 7.3% chance of having 1 to 3 diamonds inside, meaning that if it's taken you a while to find the end portal, it might actually pay off. And you could even have a new chestplate before you go and fight the dragon. This bridge could be the death of me, because even though it's easy to build over the lava using netherrack, all it takes is one ghast flying by and shooting me with a fireball to completely destroy it. So even though there's a bunch of netherrack to use in the nether to build, I'd much rather prefer using something like cobblestone for a better alternative. And that way, you'll at least have a chance of surviving the fireball instead of having a definite fall to your doom. By this point, we've talked plenty about how important it is to zombify and then cure your villagers. And while that's true, I don't want to overlook the cost of curing all of those Squidwards for your trading hall. So to help out on the potion side, this is a simple fix. See, all that we need is for the zombie villager to have the weakness potion effect. But it doesn't have to just be done with a splash potion. So instead, why not brew up a lingering potion and do this with weakness arrows instead, giving us a lot more chances for the same potion. All the trapdoors are made out of wood, they don't burn in lava. Yeah, I don't get the logic either, but we don't have to understand it to know that we can use this to get ourselves quite a bit of diamonds. Since whenever you come across a lava pool, all you have to do is just bring around a crimson or warp trapdoor like this, and then flip it open to get yourself the diamonds at the bottom of the lava lake. But just be careful, because even if the trapdoor doesn't burn, your diamonds definitely could. You want to know the fastest way to trade in Minecraft? And I'll give you a hint, it doesn't use any kind of big system like this, but rather the most useful tidbit that you can know just relies on the spacebar. The way you do it is simple. You click on the trade you want to do, you click the item, and then you hit spacebar to refill the commodities that the villager wants. And just like that, repeating a cycle of going spacebar click, we can completely trade through the villager's options before it needs to restock. And while this gets particularly helpful if you're trying to batch a lot of trades with something like a Fletcher, if you have villagers existing in your world from older versions, then they might be bugged in a way where they can trade infinitely. And then when you use this trick, you're pretty much set for life. So if you got the key on your keyboard, you might as well use it. Coarse fruit is a tough food source to justify, and not because of anything with a saturation, but because of the teleportation. And usually it's just too risky to use this when you're not trying to teleport somewhere. That is, unless you eat one of these underwater. Strange as it may seem, by just putting yourself underneath a body of water, then you can eat as much chorus fruit as you want without ever having to teleport from that place. And I don't know why this happens, but I'm also not going to question it if it means that I can survive in the end. This cave looks safe, but it's actually stupid, because this cave is also safe, and it took a lot less torches. See, since the changes in version 1.18 to mob spawning, they'll only ever spawn down here in complete darkness, which is a big change from when they used to spawn in light levels up to 7. And honestly, I have a bad habit of doing this too. It just feels safer when there's more light. But if you're low on resources, just know that you can take this easy out, and it's not gonna come back to bite you in any way. When you're living like a nomad, that usually means you're not torching up the area very much, which also means you have to deal with a lot of creepers. That is, unless you take the time to tame a cat, since by just grabbing yourself a feline friend, that'll be enough to keep all these creepers away from you. And phantoms too, which when you're not regularly sleeping in a bed, that's also very appreciated. Stop killing animals like this. And no, that's not a moral argument, but we're actually gonna suggest is so much worse. But if you use a flint and steel to burn the mob before you kill it, then when you use your axe or a sword, it'll still drop a cooked version of the meat item. And there you go, just for the cost of a flint and an iron, you give yourself 64 chances to get cooked food this way, and never have to waste anything on furnaces or fuel. And perhaps the most valuable resource that this saves you is time, since cooking up a pork chop regularly would take 20 seconds in the microwave, whereas this is just as simple as killing them the first time. And once you get it down, it's gonna feel second nature, so better start getting that learning curve out of the way early. This shovel's too fast, which sounds like a ridiculous problem to have, but can actually come up in certain instances. Like say I have a stack of gravel in my offhand, and I'm trying to mine them with the shovel at the same time to get flint. But if my shovel has the efficiency to insta-mine, then it breaks the gravel before it lets me place down another block. But instead, by using a slower shovel here, we can just hold down both buttons and completely mine through the stack without interruption, proving that sure enough, slow and steady can't win the race. No joke, sand could be your ticket to diamonds, since by brushing inside a suspicious sand, you actually have a 12.5% chance of finding a diamond hidden inside, which actually makes this easier to find than sniffer eggs if you can believe it. And I love sniffers, but you can't exactly craft 3 of them into a pickaxe, so pay extra close attention to what might look like regular sand. It could keep you out of the caves. By this point, we've talked about making a bubble elevator using kelp, which is helpful, but it requires a couple of different items. So instead, let's get the job done simpler by just carrying around ice. With this, all we have to do is pillar up ice above a soul sand block, and then mine it with a non-silk touch pickaxe on the way back down. Then when we reach the bottom, all of them will be water source blocks, and we can fly right back up to the top, keeping our elevators fast and helping us build them about as quickly. The ocean is one of the most unexplored parts of Minecraft, which leaves many players to miss the thousands of diamonds that are underneath the water. See, these underwater caves are massive, and they leave huge amounts of room for diamonds to spawn, but a lot of players don't actually take the time to notice them because they don't want to risk drowning. So if you bring along water breathing and night vision to keep you safe and see better, then that gives you a way to get all of those untapped potential straight from the water source below. Animal husbandry is a cornerstone of the Minecraft experience, but while it's straightforward to move a bunch of sheep or cattle, it's sometimes tedious. I mean, I doubt many of us are walking around with weed at all times. I'm definitely not. So to fix those pigs who got out of the pen, we could solve this simply by using a flint and steel. Sure enough, when lit on fire, these mobs are coded to pathfind to the nearest water source, meaning a system like this is sure to have them relocate themselves, just as long as they don't become pork chops in the process. Do not enchant your pickaxe with fortune, or rather, don't do it yet, since going on your mining trips with a silk touch pickaxe is going to be much more efficient for your inventory space. And then after you've collected all the ores in the raw form, you can finally return those back to your base, and then use the fortune pickaxe when you're up and above, which in part does 2 things. You'll be able to carry more ores, and you don't have to worry about dying with literal stacks of diamonds while you're down there, both of which sound pretty nice. Lava might normally get in the way when you're caving, but it's actually key to finding more diamonds, since if you were to clear out the lava from any lava pool that you find, it'll leave a huge amount of space for the diamonds to be hidden. And now the way you do this could be in several different ways, like the simple but effective water bucket, but then you're gonna have to go and get rid of the obsidian, which is gonna take a while. So that's why some people choose to use blocks that are instantly mineable without a pickaxe. Stuff like slime blocks works great here. You just might want to clear out all the lava before you break it, because getting a lot of slime blocks back is not exactly easy. You don't want it all burning up, especially if there's no diamonds in that lava pool. Everyone's seen this before, the classic cobblestone generator. But while it's iconic, it's not exactly the fastest. So if you're looking for a better return on your skyblock profits, this format might be worth a try. With this altar-shaped setup, we not only get 1 block per cycle, but we get 8 instead. And folks, that'll let us walk the perimeter and essentially mine around the clock, without having any lulls in the cycle. Or hey, you could even enlist a couple of friends and have this work at full capacity on the multiplayer server. Did you know diamonds are more common in the end than the overworld? Since if you're lucky enough to find an end city and ship, you'll find yourself rewarded with a whole bunch of diamonds. And just here, you have a 21.2% chance of finding 2 to 7 diamonds, with an overall amazing average of 4.7 diamonds per city that you loot. But I don't know what you're gonna do with 7/10 of a diamond, so maybe go find the next end city so you can bring up that average. Normally in Minecraft, Steve jumps 1.15 blocks tall, which means you can jump 1 block with a little bit of clearance over it. But all of that's pointless, since with this Bed Wars tip, we can actually find a way to get ourselves up 3 blocks high in about as long as it would have taken us for a regular jump. All you have to do is sprint, place a block underneath, jump, and then place 2 blocks underneath yourself. And off of just that simple maneuver, you can do this fast and get 3 blocks of jump height. So if you got 3 blocks, you can jump 3 blocks. I think that's a good trade-off. Nobody likes silverfish. They don't have a special drop or anything, so there's no incentive to kill them. So at the very least, if we have to deal with them, how about we make it a bit easier to get rid of them? And while swinging at them with a sword does work, that's almost guaranteeing that a few of their friends are going to join the fray. So to prevent that, let's use a flint and steel instead. By burning the suckers, it's treated as environmental damage, and that'll keep the rest of their buddies at bay. Look, I wouldn't exactly say it makes fighting them a joy, but if you're giving me the choice of fighting just one or an entire dozen, I'd rather just fry the guy. Even the most novice of players in Minecraft can still get through the traps found inside of jungle temples, which actually makes them one of the best places to collect diamonds if you're in a hurry. I mean, at least it's not going to be risky, since each chest inside having a 12.9% chance of holding 1 to 3 diamonds. If you're lucky enough to find a jungle biome, this seems like a no-brainer to raid. Plus, you get to keep any of the arrows that don't shoot you in the face. Here's why you should never craft lime dye. Since while it is technically possible to get this with cactus green and white dye, it'd be so much quicker if you just farmed your sea pickles and did it like this. Since if you just bone meal a sea pickle on top of a coral block, you'll get a large number of them for cheap, sometimes 10 plus. And then you can smelt those down and get much more dye for your return. And that way you only need 1 sea pickle farm instead of a way to get cactus and white dye. Every time that you see a hopper, there's a hidden cost of 5 iron ingots and a chest. But what if I told you that a way to cut down on this is just use the chest and forget the hopper? Instead, alternating like this lets us cut down on how much iron that we have to spend. And the hoppers and chests will still flow the way that we're used to. So if you haven't yet set up that iron farm, this would be the choice that I'd pick for you. Ever since 1.17, mining has not been the safest thing. And oddly enough, it's safer in the nether. Since while the Bastion remnant is still a dangerous place, if you wear gold and get rid of the few piglin brutes, you'll find out these are plenty good to get you your diamonds. And in here, you have a 15.8% chance of finding 2 to 6 diamonds in every treasure chest. Which if you have to spend a little gold to get some diamonds, I'm willing to make that trade. Whether you're playing on easy or hard mode, mob proofing is an essential chore on your to-do list. And while light level can work, that isn't as much of an option in the nether. So if you're trying to get piglins to stop spawning in your travel tunnels or next to your fortress farm, then an easy to get solution is a moss carpet. Now initially, it might seem ridiculous to try and put vegetation next to lava, but apparently, moss carpet doesn't burn, making it pretty ideal for the lava landscape. Though I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that even though this doesn't burn next to lava, flowing lava will still break these the same as flowing water. But as long as you keep that in mind, you'll be safe. Or safer, at least. Cauldrons are a ripoff, because if you're taking the time to fill up each of your water bottles using the cauldron, one water source will only fill up 3 bottles that it needs. But if instead you just take that water source out of the cauldron and place it nearby, then you can fill up an infinite amount of bottles from that. And when it costs 7 iron ingots to get even less return, I think it's safe to say that the cauldron's still a ripoff. The mineshaft isn't only full of cobwebs and cave spiders, but it's also got diamonds as well. I mean, otherwise, cobwebs and cave spiders aren't exactly a good selling point. But thankfully, with the 8.9% chance to find diamonds in the mineshaft chests, and with a huge amount of chests in these giant structures, you could easily walk away with some nice armor as well. And not only that, but think about the walls in the mine shaft that could have even more diamond ores, meaning that the next time you go caving, you're gonna be happy to hear some cave spiders nearby. If you don't yet have the mending enchantment, you'll want to pay attention to this, because when you take those non-enchanted items and mix them together like this, it's not just the 2 durabilities that add up, but rather that repaired item will have the sum of the 2 items durability plus an additional bonus of 5%. And hey, you did all of that without consuming any XP, which I again think is pretty useful. So if you're getting a lot of armor drops from your mob farm, this could be a good way to bring them back up to usefulness. Since even if these 2 items wouldn't add up to a full durability item, with that 5% repair bonus, it goes right up to clean and pristine, all of which without ever having to touch an anvil. Glow lichen is a neat addition to the Caves and Cliffs update, but most of its purpose is served for lighting up those caves, and ultimately it doesn't do much up here on the surface. But this fixes that. As you'll notice, when you put this on coarse dirt, it gives a valuable transitionary block between dirt and stone, giving us builders another tool for our arsenal. By the time you reach the nether, you probably already have diamonds. But if you built your nether portal using buckets, then there's plenty of diamonds to find inside of the nether fortress to actually kit you out. Since in this structure, there's a 19% chance that each one of these chests could generate with 1 to 3 diamonds. And considering how big some of these could be and how many chests you can find in their corners, that could quickly be profitable for you. Just as long as you're able to make it past the blazes and the wither skeletons. Most of us would see a dead bush and think nothing of it. And while they can give sticks every now and then, I think this gives more more of a reason to collect these. See, by itself, these don't offer much for looks, but throw it in a pot with some leaves or moss above, and now we've got a custom plant perfect for your desk. This is one of the most useful features in Minecraft, and it's off by default. But when you go into the accessibility settings and turn on the subtitles, then you can use those for valuable information about the world around you. So even if you don't hear something quite right out of your headphones, you'll still be able to see that sure enough there's lava popping nearby, and even which direction it comes from, allowing you to much easier find things like lava lakes, blazes, and so much more. And it's also a good way to catch your friends' pranks before they happen. Really, for how much screen real estate that we're giving up here, this subtitle feature more than makes up for it. We've talked in the past about the fastest way to fly with an elytra, but what about the furthest way to fly with an elytra? Well, if you want to start talking about angles and degrees, you should know that if you fly 40 degrees downwards and then 40 degrees upwards, that zigzagging will allow you to fly much longer distances. And honestly, I just love doing this because it reminds me of Super Mario World. Stop mining for your diamonds, instead start exploring for them. Since ever since we've had buried treasure in Minecraft, we now have a whole bunch of chests lying around in our world. And with a 59.9% chance of finding 1 to 2 diamonds per treasure chest, that gives us the highest chance of any loot table in Minecraft to go and get some of the stuff. So when you're starting a new world, you might want to make a diamond shovel before a diamond pickaxe, since being able to dig down to this could just get you the whole diamond set. When you're playing in survival mode, it's a constant challenge to save resources. So while some things are more costly than others, it's good to cut back where we can. And in that case, let's do a bit of a public service announcement. Now, if you're someone who wants a vibrant selection of sheets for your bed, that's fine. Just make sure to dye your bed like this instead of using dyed wool. Is it a major change? Not at all. But hey, I'm always thankful to know a better way of doing things, and maybe you are too. Item storage is a common problem, and while chests are the most obvious solution, they're not exactly a looker, especially if you hoard a bunch of items like me. So to solve your item crisis without causing a building fiasco, it might be time to opt for barrels. And I think this is a pretty elegant solution for those. See, since the beds aren't a full block, we can still interact with the blocks behind. And by using some barrels, we can get a decorative headboard and some extra room for your midnight snacks, which seems like a better fit than having yet another chest monster. If your ender chest looks like this, you're doing it wrong. Or rather, I should say you're doing it inefficiently, since an ender chest like this has 27 times the storage that we had there. And now that shulkers are renewable in recent updates, by using different shulker boxes that are sorted in a certain way, we can save ourselves a lot of time, like having one that's purely for valuables, another for emergency gear, or even just having shulker boxes filled with common building blocks could save you a lot of back and forth while you're building out a trip, all of which is a time investment that pays off, trust me. While dead coral fans can be used for TNT duplication systems, dead coral blocks are a different story, and usually these are less desirable than their living counterparts. But while they might look less vibrant, their texture does still lend well to certain color palettes. And from there, we can make these pretty useful when mixed into a gravel path like so. Lighting up your base is great, but you never want to be too obvious about it. Having a torch on the ground doesn't look the best, is what I'm trying to say. But luckily, there is a way for us to hide it. Since if you place down a torch and then have an armor stand entity drop on top of it, then after you suit up that armor stand with whatever armor of your choice, then you'll have successfully made hidden lighting within your base. And while I'm not saying that you should go and spam a bunch of armor stands around your base, that looks more awkward than torches. I think looking for little alternatives like this can really make a difference when you can. Minecraft is a game famous for its random generation, but that doesn't mean we can't tip the scales in our favor. So if you only got one sapling and you're looking for more bang for your buck, maybe try this. Sure enough, all it takes is a few blocks along the plant's edge like so to guarantee that we'll get a big oak like this one. And if you've played Skyblock, I'm sure you can already find a use for this. So if you're tired of populating your forest with a couple of small something or others, this could be your perfect fix. This small drip leaf is incredibly rare, so you shouldn't waste it. See, small drip leaf is essentially non-renewable since you can only find it within lush caves and from wandering trader trades, meaning that if you were to bone meal a small drip leaf into a big one, you're wasting it, since that same big drip leaf is actually easily farmable through other methods. So even if it doesn't look like it, in the long run, you'll want to hold on to the little guys, especially when you can get all the big ones from a setup like this. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video, so see if they're right and have a good one, alright?